Howdy AdWords fans, and welcome back to this exciting section where we're going to dive deep into keyword planning. As we know, keyword planning is that second stage in our keyword process. We covered keyword research in a lot of depth in the last section, and now it's time to move into keyword planning. So this is the screen we left off on. It's the basic build and the basic structure of this first ad group we made, highlighted over here in our left-hand panel. And in this view, under the Keywords tab, we have all the keywords that we've entered into the campaign. As you can see, and as we've spoken about, they're all still in the broad match type, and that's fine because in fact we're going to be restructuring all these keywords, and we're just going to be using these keywords as a basic platform for us to continue to build out our more detailed and our more thematically related lists of keywords. So the first thing I need to do, I need to get this data into Microsoft Excel. That's where I want it to be. We're going to use Excel to organize and get a clearer sense of how we want to build out these ad groups. Before we do that, I just want to point out that there are other tools aside from Excel that allow you to do everything we're going to do plus more much faster than you'll be able to do it in Excel. And we'll talk about what those tools are, but most of those tools are paid tools, they're shortcuts, and it's important to know how to do it the right way from the outset. So let's go ahead and download data into Excel. So what you need to do in order to download data is you click on this download icon over here. It's always to the left of the search box. So the little down arrow indicates downloading a report, and this is called a report. What you see here is a keyword, technically called a keyword report. If we went to ads, we would be seeing an ad report. So here we are, keywords, and we want to download the keyword report. So I'm going to click this icon. I'm going to select the options I want in this dialog box. So I'm going to select an Excel.csv, which is selected by default. I have the option to email and schedule the report. And I'm going to keep that by default selected to no one. I don't need to email the report to anyone. I'm just downloading it for my own use, and I don't need to schedule it. But it's good to know that you could do that. You could schedule it at a repeating basis. You could send this email. You could email this report to specific users. There's a few options for advanced editing where we could include other additional columns that we don't need right now because we're just really interested in the keyword column. And I also have the option to save this report so I could quickly access it later. Since this is not a complicated report, this is just a very basic overview, a basic level keyword report, there's no need for me to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and click download, and we'll get the notification that it's downloading. Now I already went into Excel earlier, and I actually created this document. I created this report, and we're going to open it up and we'll take a look at what it looks like. So this is what our Excel output looks like from AdWords. It pulls all the columns we had, and as you notice, there's lots and lots of zeros because we have max cost per click and clicks, impressions, a lot of data that hasn't been populated yet simply because this campaign hasn't been running. And for the sake of just simplifying this view, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, select all these columns that are empty, and I'm going to delete them. It's going to make things a lot easier. We have status before eligible, below first page bid. No need to do that. No need to have that information, so I'll delete those two columns as well, and then I'll be able to zoom in here a little bit to get a little bit of a clearer sense of what's happening. Okay, so here are all our keywords, and before we start talking about how we're going to organize it, it's important to jump into some keyword theory and understanding what the whole concept of keyword planning is and why we would do it. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Keyword planning, right? So what really is keyword planning? Okay, so people communicate with search engines with words. People think with their brains, they think with thoughts, but Google and the search engines, they can't pick up exactly what we're thinking yet. They might be able to do that at some point soon, but not yet. And people search for answers to their questions in different ways, okay? And that's a very important concept that's going to be a recurring theme in this session. Everybody's different. People search for things in different ways. And on our own, and this is something that we've spoken about before, we're not going to be able to figure out all the different ways that people search, but that's not the point in this session. The point is to understand the different psychological constructs that represent how people are searching. So people seek information in different ways. People feel differently about the problems that they need solved. Okay, that's an important thing. So let's take an example scenario. Okay, so Jennifer works as a data analyst for an international agency specializing in telephone pole ad campaigns for publicly traded companies. All right, so definitely an interesting job description for Jennifer. So she sits in her hard plastic office chair for long stretches of time, and her back has been seriously bothering her for the past few months. So Jennifer turns to Google for an answer. Now, in this chart over here, we have a column that's called type of query. There's a lot of different types of queries that people will perform on Google, and this is not a comprehensive list, but this is a very broad level categorically that's going to help us define and organize our keywords. So Jennifer might search Google indicating that she has the answer to her question. So she might use the answer to the question as her query in Google. So this is something we call problem-based search. So problem-based search is when somebody is searching based on a problem and they're using the answer in the query. So what's an example query that Jennifer might make over here? So she might make a query: office chairs with lumbar support. Okay, so she knows that she's looking for an office chair with lumbar support, and that's the answer to her question. Her question is, how could I relieve my back pain? And she's going to Google to look for office chairs with lumbar support. She knows that that's what she wants. Okay, that is a very common way that people will search on Google, looking for the answers to their questions. People also might search over here with the question itself, and this is what we call explicit and direct queries. An example query for an explicit direct, the question itself, that is, how can I fix my back problems from sitting all day? So this is something which has grown in popularity. People are starting to use Google as they would talk. So that's a very, very important category to focus on. How can I fix my back problems from sitting all day? So she's using the question that she actually has, and she's inputting that as her query into the Google search box. She didn't indicate to us yet that she wants an office chair. She might not be in the market for an office chair. She might not know she's in an office chair. And because of that, because she's using the question herself and she's not necessarily indicating to us that she wants an office chair, that's going to put her in a different level of the buyer journey. And we're going to talk about the buyer journey in a second. There are certain industries and there are certain examples where we know that there's only one possible answer. So, for example, let's say your iPhone screen cracked, right? And you use the question itself: where could I repair my iPhone screen? So we basically know that any Mac service repair store is going to be a good candidate for her, because she can't really solve her answer in multiple ways. In our situation, a new office chair is just one way to solve lumbar support. It's not the only way to solve lumbar support. So that's just illustrating that there are no rules. These are not hard, cold rules. These are guidelines. And you have to assess our situation, our scenario, our unique products whenever you determine psychologically where a buyer is coming from. In our case, it's very interesting because there's more than one way to solve back problems. And Jennifer might not have any interest because she didn't indicate that she wants a new office chair. She might want a therapeutic ball. She might want to find a doctor. So we don't know that she wants or she'd be even willing to buy an office chair, and that makes the commercial intent of this keyword diminished. It diminishes the commercial intent of this keyword over here. So we're not really necessarily sure that she wants to buy an office chair, even though she wrote problems from sitting all day. Even though she used that word sitting, we're not really sure that that's what she's looking for. So moving on, we have another type of search that people do is the description of the problem. Okay, this is what's called symptom-based. It's not really asking a question. It's just typing in the symptoms of the problem. So my back hurts at work. That's a symptom of a problem of having a bad and uncomfortable chair. And that's a very common way people search. It's further earlier on in the buyer process. These are usually less commercially, these are keywords that with less commercial intent. But keep in mind, this is a very common way people search, and we want to keep an eye out for that. The fourth way is the description of the cause, which is really kind of the opposite of the description of the problem, but it's still symptom-based. It's still focusing on the symptoms from a general perspective. So description of cause: my back hurts because I sit for too long in an uncomfortable office chair. So in our scenario, this part of the query, the fact that she